Okay, you're good, Ralph.
Thanks, Brian. Good evening. We will now resume our workshop meeting that we started at 6:15 p.m. Mr. Smythe, roll call, please.
Hey, Mr. Gartz,
He has an excused absence.
Mr. Hall,
I'm here.
Mr. Krupa,
Here.
Ms. Mangan,
Here.
Mr. Nasser,
Here.
Mr. Sanfilippo,
Here.
Ms. Stites,
Here.
Mr. Wondrak,
Here.
and Mr. Adenizio.
Ralph, we can't hear you. No.
I think Ken called in on your audio line, that phone number.
Yeah, but it was working a minute ago, right?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, Ken, we can hear you. We're waiting for Ralph's audio to link up.
All right.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I think with Mr. Wondrak calling in, it might be affecting my sound, possibly.
Ralph,
Yes.
I had just sent Mr. Wondrak the new email invite. He has to type in those credentials to log in as himself because it looks like he's calling in under your name and then muting you out.
Brian, can you send that to Mr. Adenizio? That what you're sending to Mr. Wondrak?
Okay.
Because maybe Mr. Adenizio can communicate it to him.
Yeah, Ralph is gonna need to share that with Ken, so he calls in on the number that's assigned.
Can you hear me now? Yes. I think it's an issue with Mr. Wondrak calling in. So get before I have to restart again. Did Mr. Smythe do the roll call? I couldn't hear anybody. Yes.
Just say yes and we're good.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Hear me now? I think it's an issue with Mr. Wondrak calling in. So
Ralph, we can't hear you again.
have to restart again. Did Mr. Smythe do the roll call? I couldn't hear anybody. Yes.
Just say yes and we're good.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Hey, Ralph?
Mr. Wondrak, if you're on this call, could you please hang up? We have a different link for you. Could you guys hear me? This is very frustrating. Can't hear me now? Still? Oh, okay. All right. So with that, if you can still hear me, Mr. Hall has a comment from our Finance and Facilities Chairperson, Mr. Gartz. Mr. Hall?
Thanks, Ralph. As many of you know, on Friday, we released the Dr. Cram's report, and the public got to see the report for the first time, which we had access to for a while. So we wanted to comment on that. Mr. Gartz had read a letter. He's unable to be here today. He asked me as a member of the F&F committee to read it. So I'd like to do that on behalf of the board today. So the current Board of Education has been made up of 4 members who have been on this board for less than a year and 2 more that have been on it for just over a year. We as a board inherited many challenges from the board whose membership resigned amidst the crisis with the trailers. On top of the trailers, there were many other challenges that presented themselves on a consistent basis. One of the previous super resigned. We were challenged with finding an interim while dealing with the challenges of what happened with the trailers and keeping the district moving in a positive direction, including our first budget cycle. Then the pandemic struck. Through the pandemic period, with Dr. Cram leading the district, we were able to pass the budget and manage a traumatic experience for the staff, the employees, the parents, and especially the children. Planning for what would come and running the process of interviewing candidates for the superintendent role, the board continued to manage the challenges at hand. After the sitting board attorney denied investigating the trailers and a third-party retired judge wasn't available, the board asked Dr. Cram to review the trailer situation and evaluate what may have gone wrong during the process and to help the board to prevent the situation from happening again. The board was successful in removing the trailers off the premises, ending a very rocky experience for the district. We have made progress in our communication and transparency, as indicated by the handling of the Mercury in the South Gym and the flood at Central just a month ago. We have initiated school due reports at the F&F meetings. These are some of the improvements this board has made and will continue to make with Dr. Hanrahan. The recent delivery of the report from Dr. Cram has been received by the board and is clear to me as a chair of the F&F, as well as some other board members, that the report lacks any real meat. The report is less than valuable and leaves us with many of the same questions and some new ones. Our goal as a board in reviewing the trailer situation was to bring transparency and trust back to the district and the public. The current report does not meet that expectation. I and some other members of the board, therefore, it is a recommendation of mine as chairman of the F&F that this board consider a fuller, more thorough review, evaluation of the facts with our current attorney and professionals that will offer more complete look at the facts, data, and reports, as well as interviewing key participants and members of the community. The purpose of this higher level third-party access process is to find out if anything was done in a manner inconsistent with district or state guidelines or outside the normal professional expectations. Were proper channels of communication followed and shared appropriately with the board and committees? If everything was done up to par, we move on and we move past the trailers. If not, we deal with the findings or recommendations as necessary. This new report will be shared with the public after the board has had a chance to review the findings and chart a course of action. The review should commence immediately and a report delivered by the end of October. Please note that the trailer situation was never out of our focus for the board, but the pandemic, the hiring of the new super, reopening of schools has been our priority. These things take time to review and longer than any of us really want to admit that unfortunately that's what happened. We appreciate your comments and concerns and want you to know that we are committed to a thorough review. That was Mr. Gartz's words and read from for the board. And I'd just like to add myself is that yeah, I think this board is committed, and I know we seem to say it a lot, but we want to do the right thing. We asked Dr. Cram to provide something. Obviously, we knew that wasn't going to be enough. Hopefully, with Mr. McKeever and his firm, looking to either if they do it or they get somebody from outside to do it, that hopefully once and for all we'll put this to bed and move forward. And we're looking obviously to change some policies and procedures, whatever may come of it once we find out all the facts. That being said, Mr. President, I think that's basically all I have to say. And hopefully the next meeting we can, I guess we have to memorialize that as a resolution. I don't know if Tony and Mr. McKeever will start on our, but however that, whatever legal, I don't think we can vote on it tonight, but I just wanted to make sure the public was aware that while we can walk and chew gum at the same time, we're trying to, but doing the reopening. And then, like I said, the trailers has been kind of a back burner item for us, but we now the schools are starting to open, we realize that has to be the number one topic after we get schools reopened safely.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. At this time, I am going to go to Dr. Handerhan for a little back to school update. You're on mute. At least you can hear me this time.
I can.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Adonisio, and thank you to Mr. Hall for speaking tonight. As I'm sure you are already aware, tomorrow is a very big day. In fact, it is literally my favorite day of the year. Everything is new, everything is shiny, and this year is unlike any other, certainly in my lifetime. And I've looked forward to this from the moment I walked into this office on July 13th. We at Wall Township Public Schools are welcoming our students back after a 6-month separation. I am so excited to meet the students. I was equally excited to welcome back staff members this past Monday. During the past 2 years, I have had the pleasure of visiting the schools, the past 2 days, I'm sorry. I've had the pleasure of visiting the schools and meeting with so many of our very talented district educators. I am very proud to share that our staff has been working so hard preparing for the students' returns. Despite the restrictions placed upon us by the guidelines of safety during this very difficult time, the rooms look beautiful, the buildings look terrific, and the words "thank you" just don't seem sufficient to really to demonstrate my appreciation towards this staff in each and every department across the district. I would also like to add that the Monmouth County Office of Education has reviewed our district's reopening plan for the 2020-2021 school year using the New Jersey Department of Education's mandated checklist. The County Office of the NJDOE has determined that the Wall Township Public Schools reopening plan contains all of the elements on the required checklist. We are ready to go, and I am so excited about the start of the day tomorrow, and I do hope that my enthusiasm is shared across the boundaries of this municipality. So thank you very much, and I am so excited for tomorrow.
Thank you, Dr. Handerhan, and certainly we are all aware of the amount of work that went into preparing schools for tomorrow. It's been it'll be, I think, just about 6 months to the day since schools unfortunately were forced to close, and everybody's lives were kind of turned upside down. And hopefully we're in the process of coming out the other side, and this is hopefully the next step, and hope for great things. I know the students, I know the children in my neighborhood are certainly excited to go back, so that's a good thing. And hopefully our staff is equally happy to go back and do what they love to do and do so well for us. So with that, we will slide right over to our committee reports and policy. Mr. Hall.
Yes, thank you, Ralph. Tonight we have 5 policies ready for the second reading. We went over them at length, I believe, with the last meeting, I believe. The policy 1648, which is the restart and recovery plan. That's a new one. That's based on what the, again, what the state, we've taken all the state recommendations or guidelines and put it together into the policy. 1648 spot 02 is about the remote learning. Again, we went over that last time. 1649 is the Federal Families First Coronavirus Response Act. That's kind of a compilation of putting some of the family leave and some of the other different acts all under kind of one umbrella type of thing. Maybe Dr. Henry can speak more to that. She maybe knows a little bit more, but that one is a new one as well. And then there's the 2 revised policies, which were the 2270, the religion in schools. Again, minor tweaks to what the Department of Education guidance came out on what's allowed as far as what a school can do as far as religion goes. And then, of course, the 2431 spot point 3 is the heat participation policy for student athletes. That's revised. Again, same thing. These are done in accordance to NJ SIA changes or the Department of Education rule changes, just so that we're up to date and legal as far as all our policies are in line with the Department of Education.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. So these are all second readings. They will be on the on our agenda for, and we will have a public hearing on them, and then we will vote. Does anybody have any questions or concerns or anything in regards to these from the last time we met? No. Seeing none, they will be added to the agenda. Thank you. Mr. Hall, anything else for policy?
Not at this time. I do know that obviously the changing environment, I would expect that to be a busy, a busy part of the agenda, as we move forward the fall and into the winter as new challenges pop up, there'll be new policies to address them. So I would expect that would be, and then of course your just normal regular routine updates of policies. So again, I think that's a pretty robust part of the agenda of the policies is going to be here for a while for us, I believe.
Yes, perfect. Thank you. All right, we will move on to curriculum and instruction. Dr. Gleason?
Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr.
Good evening,
Mr.
everyone. Good evening, everyone. I want to echo Dr. Handerhan's words that on the eve of students coming back, I couldn't be more excited to see the students tomorrow. And it's been a pleasure, a relief, an inspiration to see the teachers and all of our staff and faculty back over the last 2 days. We've been in all of our 7 buildings. And we know that there are mixed feelings that people have as they come back after almost a 6-month unexpected hiatus. But I will say that in talking to the teachers, there is so much determination and so much positivity, and the outlook is great. So I'm excited, and we're excited to see kids back in the building, which is the reason we're all here tomorrow. So we're looking forward to that. I don't have a very long agenda, but I have some important items on here. The first is an update on virtual school. And I know we've been following closely the number of students that parents have requested the all remote option. We have a total of 208 students enrolled in virtual school at the elementary level, K-5. We additionally have, as you know, approximately anywhere from 75 to 100 students at the secondary level in both intermediate school and the high school. Those students are being integrated into the campus classrooms using technology for during the direct instruction portion of the lesson. And then they will move to independent, or the term we've been using is asynchronous, but independent activities in their Google Classrooms throughout the rest of their day in each of those content areas. They also will be working live with all of their campus classmates on their virtual days, on mostly virtual Wednesdays. So at the elementary level, very different. There is an actual district teacher in the virtual classroom. And we have anywhere from one section in 5th grade to 2 sections at every other grade level for virtual school. And it's been a very busy couple of days with the new virtual school teachers. We have a blend of both veteran teachers as well as some new to district teachers. And we've been trying to balance those virtual teachers so that they can have a new to district teacher has an experienced Wall Township teacher working with him or her. So we have a total of 14 teachers currently. They've been working on the last 2 days, everything from getting their digital platforms up, setting up their lessons, communicating with parents, the various links to get into the classes tomorrow in the virtual classrooms. We had a virtual kindergarten orientation this afternoon, a meet and greet for our new kindergartners coming into a very unexpected virtual world rather than the classroom for their opening of school. But that went on today, and I really want to thank the kindergarten teachers for quickly putting that together for their students. I know it's very important that they have a face that they can become familiar with and have some words of reassurance before they start tomorrow. And of course, want to thank all of the teachers in the virtual school setting for what I believe is a huge amount of work in a relatively short time to get ready for tomorrow. We're going to be providing a lot of support for those teachers. They are going to be teaching in an unconventional setting, and we are determined to make sure that virtual school is equitable with the types of educational experiences students are getting when they're live on campus. And we'll be working on that continually. We have time each day for professional development in the afternoon for those teachers, and we'll bring them all together once a week to share some successes they're having and also some challenges so that we can really address them in a timely manner. We have professional development resources online for them that they can use in their time outside of school if they choose to. And as I said, we are committed to providing a tremendous amount of support. Any questions on virtual school?
I have a question, Dr. Gleason. The numbers seem to have changed a little bit, 208 for elementary level, and then 75 to 100 secondary. So that, I think, went down because I think there was something like 78 and 122 the last time I asked.
That's correct. I should have been clear with those numbers, Mr. Krupa. Originally, when I reported to the board, there were 198 students at the elementary level. So we went up 10 students to 208. And at intermediate school, we were at 69 students, which I believe is still relatively accurate, and 122 at the high school.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And just to mention to the public that we hopefully are going to start working on a committee format for the curriculum and instruction and address other issues, but also any continued work that needed in your reopening and going forward plan.
Thank you, Mr. Krupa. I think it is important that the board and the public know that while we're spending considerable time addressing what we have in front of us with these integrated virtual classrooms or the complete virtual classroom at the elementary, we are absolutely keeping our eye on the the end game, which is when we get kids back into school, how are we going to address next steps and beginning to integrate students? So while we're only talking about virtual school because we're on the eve of that, it's never far from our table here, the work that we have to begin planning for the next step. And we're excited, it's always to get kids back to school, and we'll be working on those plans and again, moving to committee format, we'll be able to really spend some dedicated time talking about that over the next few weeks. Thank you. Any other questions on virtual school? Okay, I provided the board with the ESSA, which is the elementary and it's actually the Every Student Succeeds Act. It's the reauthorization of the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, but it's an annual grant, federal grant that the district receives. It's comprised of 4 grant allocations. Title I, which is for serving students who are at risk of not mastering the standards. The amount in that grant allocation is determined by the number of students who are coming from economically disadvantaged households. But we can service any student in the district who is at risk. Title II is for teacher and administrator professional development. Title III is to service English language learners. And Title IV is a relatively new title for servicing the district in ways that support STEM education, mental health and wellness, and a variety of other more comprehensive allowable uses. I provide this report each year to the board. This is a live worksheet, meaning that this is the submission that has gone into the state by the deadline. You'll see it as an approval on the September business meeting, on the September business agenda. And we will also be amending the grant if there are carryover funds remaining from the prior school year, which there will be because of school closure. And so I'll provide the board with updates when those carryover amounts are incorporated into the grant. But primarily our Title I funds support our after-school programs and before-school programs for response to intervention. They also support our summer programs, Nights in Training at Intermediate School, which is a well-received and well-attended program. We have a part-time interventionist. There is an incorrect statement on that worksheet that says the interventionist is shared with Wall High School. That is not accurate. That position was originally budgeted to be a shared position last year, but it is solely dedicated to Central School. Staff member, their position is fully funded through the Title I grants. We run a really successful after-school program at the high school called Nights for Success for students who are in need of support in all content areas, as well as for some counseling services after school. And then we also supplement some of the instructional supplies that the district provides for students. And you'll see that in the Title I section of that worksheet. That's the largest part of the grant. It's estimated at approximately $335,000 approximately. The second part of the ESSA grant is Title II. We have that budgeted for 2 distinct purposes, which are in line with our district professional development plan. The first is for the Teacher Leadership Academy, which we talked about last year. I provided the board with information, and I'll be giving you updates as we recharge that initiative. We got kind of interrupted in March, but we do have money dedicated to support that teacher leadership initiative. And we've also continued to fund money into leadership and the math RTI, and bringing in Dr. Riccomini, who we've worked with for the past 2 years from grades K through 12. So we're going to continue to work with him probably in a remote fashion in the beginning of the school year. And then we hope to have him on site as we move into better health conditions. Title III, we are in a consortium with 5 other districts. The district only receives approximately $12,000 in Title III funds to support English language learners. And we use those funds to primarily support our Summer Explorer program, which we've already run at West Belmar School. And then you'll see additional funds that come in through the other 5 districts. And so we are the lead consortium members. So those districts are in consortium with us because they received less than $10,000, and they cannot spend their funds unless they are brought into consortium with a district that has more than those funds. So we pool them and we try to share where we can on some common professional development. And then they usually use the rest of their funds specifically for those districts. So we're in consortium with Brielle, Manasquan, Point Pleasant, Upper Freehold Regional, and Belmar. Title IV, as I mentioned to you, is a relatively new title grant that's we received beginning approximately 3 years ago. And we've funded such opportunities for students and staff as Challenge Day. If you remember last year, we opened the school year with some great social emotional activities for the staff and then also for the high school students. This year, Challenge Day is not available in person. And so we've put that money into professional development for mental health and wellness. And I'm working with the guidance director and our director of special services to really make sure that we use those funds to support both students and staff, particularly coming back after such a challenging time. And then the additional funds in Title IV are to purchase supplies specific to supporting STEM learning, and that is one of the allowable uses. So those funds could be used for any one of the grade bands in the district. They're often used by our media specialists at the elementary school since she works with all 4 schools. And then we typically have the intermediate school and high school media specialists also weigh in on some of the needs that are distinct in their grade bands and use funds there for some of the STEM activities or professional development or field trips. Are there any questions on the ESSA grant? Okay, thank you. The last update that I wanted to provide the board is that we had our first parent university of the school year. It was last Thursday night, September 10th, and it was really well attended. The parent university was our first virtual parent university, and the topic was supporting your child in the virtual environment. We had 16 workshops that were led by teacher leaders across the district. The topics were anything from how to use Google Classroom to Screencastify using Seesaw, Zoom for parents, Flipgrid, Pear Deck, all of the different digital resources that teachers will be using, not just in virtual school, but in the classroom where we now are using more and more digital tools and really have to be ready should we have to, pivot to a fully virtual environment. We know that students typically adapt pretty easily to digital tools, but parents need support in understanding how do I help log my child onto these platforms, especially at the elementary level? How do I get them to a breakout room if they're in a Zoom meeting? And when we talk about Seesaw and Flipgrid and Pear Deck, what do those things mean? So these were workshops dedicated solely to parents. They had an opportunity to pick 3 workshops out of the menu of 16, and they had 3 different time slots. And each workshop was followed by a Q&A period that parents could ask questions. So our teacher leaders did an amazing job. They're just really awesome at what they do. And they recorded one of their sessions, and parents can now find the archived workshop sessions on the district website under curriculum. And under that tab, if you scroll down, you'll find a parent university tab. And so parents can go back at any time and look at any of those workshops and kind of familiarize themselves with some of the digital tools. So we were really pleased with the turnout and the delivery of the virtual parent university. That is all I have for everyone tonight. Could I answer any questions?
Dr. Gleason?
Yes.
So with that parent university, one, I did hear good things about it, but just out of curiosity, are you planning on holding it again now that school's in session and now that maybe parents are going to be a little bit more back to reality and realize, oh my God, it's Zoom, as we've all witnessed here this evening with my audio not working because I shared my link with another board member and it conflicted. So certainly if you had a class Zoom for board members, I know a few of us would be in that in a heartbeat. But I mean, in all seriousness, are you going to do those again at some point?
Yes, absolutely. And we figured we would start with archiving the ones that were there. But I think, you know, we must be looking at this situation on a daily basis and seeing what is it that students need, what is it that parents need, and providing really timely parent universities. One of the parent universities we weren't able to get to last year that I'd also like to bring back is the mindfulness Parent University by Alicia Di Lorenzo. We were really looking forward to that. We hope to bring her back. We also have Dr. Greco on standby as a neuropsychologist that he had one ready for us, but he has to reschedule. We hope to get him on in the next couple of weeks to talk to parents about addressing some of the known and unknown anxieties about returning to school, and both for students and staff and for parents. So I anticipate that we'll be trying to provide as much professional development in the upcoming weeks, and this will certainly be another round of these digital tools as well.
And just another follow-up in regards to, like, because now the Zoom, the breakout rooms, that's something new that I've heard about. How do we go about teaching our students about this? Because I know, I mean, a lot of these younger kids are very, I mean, they can hop on this stuff and it's almost like they were born knowing what to do. But there are some kids that technology might not be their favorite friend. So how do we go about teaching them how to use the technology while they're dealing with the technology?
It's a great question. So regardless of whether the student's in class or they are at home in the virtual environment, we are really making sure that teachers are teaching the same types of tools to all students. So you could have a Zoom class in your own classroom just to prepare your students to learn how to sign on to the meeting, and then also how to use these breakout rooms. And Google's also coming out with a similar feature. So you can have a Google whole group meeting and then breakout. So teachers typically the first couple of days of school in times before COVID-19 would spend the first few days spending a lot of time on rules and procedures. And that will still be the same, but what will be new is exactly this type of procedure. We're going to go through how to use Zoom meetings and how do we break out. When I assign you to breakout rooms, what does that look like? And practicing in the classroom or in the online setting in a virtual class. So it's become the new normal around digital tools. So I anticipate that teachers will be doing a lot of that over the next couple of weeks. And as I said, even though we have traditional classes with live teachers and kids on campus, we know that we have to be prepared to pivot. And we have an opportunity here that we didn't have in the spring. In the spring, you know, on a Friday, we closed schools at 4 o'clock. And teachers had to learn on the go, and students had to learn on the go, and parents had to learn on the go. Where now we have kids in class or teachers that are in virtual classes with students that we can actually make this part of the lesson on how to use digital tools so that we're not coming in after the fact. So that will definitely be part of our new classroom, you know, navigating the rules, procedures, and new routines.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Does anybody else have any questions for Dr. Gleason? Oh, seeing none.
Thank you very
Dr.
much.
Gleason.
Have a good evening.
You too.
Thank you.
All right, we will move on to finance and facilities. I will turn it over to Mr. Smythe for our reports.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Adnizio. Just really have a couple updates and some housekeeping items. With regard to item number 1, enterprise accounts update, we have both the food service program and the WRAP program that will be operational starting tomorrow. The food service program, we've discussed it, the town hall meeting that we had with the Q&A with regard to the Department of Agriculture's extension of the waiver program that allows students to consume their meals off campus, and also continuing the program where all students will not be charged for meals that are provided by the district. That would be both the breakfast and the lunch program. Elementary students will be ordering online, which we've already had parents online, the My Payments Plus, ordering lunches for this week. If you do not have an account on the My Payments Plus, you can create one and place your orders. And again, it's just setting up an account on My Payments Plus, because through the start of school through December 31st of this year, there's no cost for lunches that are being provided to students. At the intermediate and high school, there's no ordering required. There'll be a standard menu that will be available to view on the district website. And those standard lunches will be provided to all students at the end of the day, both at the intermediate and the high school. Again, you do not have to be participating in the free and reduced program. The Department of Agriculture has extended this program to all students. So any student is eligible to grab a lunch at the end of the day as they're exiting the doors prior to boarding the bus or boarding private transportation or personal transportation. But there'll be lunches available at all the exits that the students will be exiting at the end of the day. And the WRAP program is going to be operational both before and after school tomorrow. Both programs will be monitored over during phase 1 to see what our staffing needs are, as well as participation, and we will manage it depending on the level of participation. Questions on enterprise?
So, Mr. Smythe, with the all students being able to get a meal for no charge, I guess it depends on us breaking even by how many students actually participate then, correct, for the reimbursement?
Correct, because we will be reimbursed for the number of meals that are taken by the students.
Okay.
Yeah.
One additional question. With sports hopefully starting, I guess soon, will those students be able to get food and eat it before their practices? And because that would be a very long day, I guess.
All students will be leaving at the end of the early dismissal. So it's not as similar to the regular school year where students at the end of the day do not go home and we're able to purchase food prior to practice. So the high school's early dismissal, I believe it's 11:45. The athletes will not be returning till after 2 o'clock for practices. So they have the ability to grab a grab and go lunch at the end of the day, the same as all the other students.
Okay. So at the end of the day, all students will be leaving campus and then coming back. Nobody's going to be permitted to linger, I guess.
I will leave that to the building level plans, but yes,
Okay.
My understanding of it from the food service component.
Okay, thank you.
The next 2 items, HVAC repairs and service bid. There's an attachment with the bid tabulations. We went out to bid. We are awarding to the low bidders. This is our HVAC repairs and service for the school year, 2021 school year, as well as for the delivery of gasoline. We took bids and we will be awarding that at next week's business meeting. Questions? 4, we've discussed it briefly before. We had the change in dual use of educational space. This is related to Allenwood School. Initially, we were looking for a change of use. There was discussion as to the applicability of it being a dual use depending on how the space is used. We are making application for both a change of use and a dual use. And that has been submitted to the Department of Education, and we'll be looking for Board of Education to approve it retroactively at the business meeting next week.
Ms. Mangan?
Okay. I want to express my extreme disappointment that our district believes that placing 2 of our 5th grade classes, one of 20 students and one of 21 students, to total 41 students in a cafeteria, especially when there's social distancing is a priority. It should come as no surprise that when I brought this up 2 weeks ago, I was not in support of it, and I'm not in support of it now as well. I'm going to be completely transparent, and I am a parent of one of the 5th graders that will be placed in the classroom. I have many concerns in regards to this. My concerns are as a parent, and my concerns are as a teacher. 41 students, regardless of how many teachers are in a room, is not the best learning environment. I imagine as a teacher myself, it will be highly disruptive and very distracting. I can tell you already from starting my school year off I feel as though I am yelling louder with a mask on over my mouth, and it is difficult to understand students when they have a face covering as well. This is going to be an extreme challenge for the teachers to effectively educate our students. When this came up, we had asked for a map. There's still no map attached to this agenda. And in the one line, it says that portable dividers will be in some circumstances. So I'm confused as to, is this a co-teaching situation? Are we meeting the teacher to student ratio at this point? I want to know, if this doesn't pass next week as a board member, moving forward, what is the plan? What is going on with the 5th grade classes that we all of a sudden are not utilizing them to be used anymore, and that our 5th graders are being placed in the cafeteria? Are there any virtual teachers in Allenwood right now utilizing classrooms that are just strictly for virtual students on the computer and not being used for in-person learning? These are some major concerns here. I'm extremely disappointed that it's the night before school starting and we should be celebrating at this point that we've made it this far. But yet, as a parent now, I have major concerns. I don't know how we're going to effectively utilize this space with 41 students when it's going to be hard enough to hear the students. It's going to be hard enough to educate the students. And the last thing I want is to see students be given busy work behind a computer screen. So I'm hoping we can get some answers here. I know there are plenty of other Allenwood parents who are just as upset about this. This came as to our attention at Friday at 3 p.m. through a text message. So communication was once again not a priority, and many parents spent the weekend worrying because if this was the arrangement that was originally going to be made, they would have found alternate placements for their children. So I'm hoping that through discussion in our workshop meeting right now, we can clarify and see what other options are available.
So maybe Dr.
Thank you, Ms.
Anderson.
Magin. I'll address some of that, and certainly we can prepare more detailed responses in speaking with the principal, Dr. O'Connell at Allenwood. It's a space issue. It's a space issue. The 5th grade rooms that you mentioned, the traditional 5th grade classrooms, they are very small in terms of they're undersized regarding square feet. And we need to provide, as you mentioned, social distancing for the students. One, if not the biggest constraint that we have is our facilities. It has been a difficult factor in all of our planning. It has been difficult in terms of students because of the social distancing requirements having to be redirected to other schools that have moved in over the summertime. They moved into a neighborhood where a student that traditionally would go to Allenwood, and because of the space constraints and the lack of square feet, we've had to redirect students to other elementary schools. So this, where, as you mentioned, the Allenwood in the cafeteria, it is not an ideal space. It is a space that was recommended to us in the road back, the document from the NJDOE. We were asked in writing in this document to consider all large spaces to accommodate social distancing. And we've been encouraged by that document to look at cafeterias. We've been encouraged to look at gymnasiums. We've been encouraged to look at auditoriums. It's not ideal. I can certainly provide more detailed instruction because the principal has met certainly with the teachers in planning it. I have visited the space with all of the desks, and it is probably I was pleasantly surprised with truly the setup that I saw, and the it's not a gloomy space, and typically in my experience cafeterias are. I will absolutely get you more information, but this decision, the decision when we surveyed the families this summer, I believe it was over 55% of K-5 families wanted their students back to school 5 days a week, most full day, but certainly the early dismissal was heavily preferred to a hybrid model. When it comes to the social distancing, the other alternatives are, moving classes, across, if there's a classroom available across town. There's also a hybrid model that we're using at the intermediate school and at the high school. So there were many, many factors in these decisions, but I will tell you that the cafeteria as an instructional space was one. It was a facilities decision. It certainly was an instructional decision, and we're going to do the best that we possibly can to make the learning space and also the instruction as enriching for the kids as humanly possible. And again, I can provide you with more information next week.
Because the way I see it is, this grade level has been a large grade level to begin with. And we knew that as a board, going into budget season, and we had seen the projections come through. So this is not coming as a surprise. The pandemic, yes, obviously, going through all the social distancing and making enough room in classrooms, we didn't foresee that as an upcoming issue. But for right now, I'm not having an issue with the cafeteria being utilized. I understand that 20 kids in the cafeteria as a classroom space, that's fine. But to have 41 kids in a classroom space in that cafeteria, to me, it's mind-boggling. That's a collegiate level course at this point. There's no intimate learning, and it's hard enough. As educators, we really want to, despite the space in between us physically, we want to make sure that kids are emotionally connected at this point. And for me, I don't understand where the 5th grade classes are being utilized now. So, different sections and whatnot, is there a live in-person class going on in the 5th grade classes? Yes. If not, there are also no virtual teachers are teaching.
Not teaching in a classroom. Not teaching in a classroom.
You're not teaching in a classroom.
Well, at Allenwood. At Allenwood.
At Allenwood. Okay. I would love to see, moving forward. I know this is something Christine and I had talked about prior, about seeing possibly a blueprint of all the schools, of mapped out how many students are in each classroom, and then how many students are projected to fit into that classroom space to make sure we're utilizing all of our spaces appropriately. Because I can tell you right now, I'm not in favor of 41 students in a cafeteria.
No, I absolutely understand. I understand your position. I do. And tough decisions have had to be made this summer. And again, I can get you more information for next week. And I can certainly speak with Mr. Smythe and Mr. Moretta regarding the blueprints that you mentioned.
And I wish this conversation could have happened 2 weeks ago when it got brought up, instead of pushing it back to another 2 weeks to today, because now it's the night before school. So that communication piece is really essential, for us moving forward. So that's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Handerhan, I had asked about the gyms at the schools. Are we using the gym at Allenwood School for any classes at this time?
I believe it is not air conditioned, and it's a temperature
issue.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Mrs. Stites.
I just wanted to clarify, are they going to be splitting those kids up into 2 classes in the cafeteria, or are they all together?
It's the kids are, it's my understanding that that's one of the reasons why 2 forms are being submitted. There is a group or opportunities for students to learn together and also to break down. There is a teacher of record for 2 distinct sets of children.
Any other questions from anybody? Seeing, go ahead.
So just to be clear, there's going to be two different types of instruction going on. Instruction that involves the two classes as one group learning simultaneously. And then I'm from reading here, a portable divider will be used in some circumstances. There will be times when there is a barrier down the middle, splitting it up into two separate classroom spaces, for lack of a better.
We wanted to be able to provide flexibility.
Okay, so walking in tomorrow, if I'm a parent, I'm looking in the door at the classroom, what am I going to see? Is it going to be one?
You would not see the barriers unless I was there yesterday and the barriers were not up.
Okay. Do we know when? I mean, I don't want to dig too much into the curriculum.
I would be, I don't want to misspeak, so I would have to consult with the principal on this type of detail.
Thank you.
Anybody else? No? Mr. Smythe?
With regard to the facility project updates, the HVAC project it has finished strong in the sense that all the air conditioning is operational. So the project for Old Mill, Allenwood, and Central School are substantially complete. We are in the punch list phase. The chiller at Central School is operational, and we will be addressing any individual unit issues on an ongoing basis and looking to close out the project over the next couple weeks.
And just to be clear, all air conditioning is working, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so minor issues.
I want to say yes, they're correct. Anything that was identified today was being addressed. And the goal is that everything will be operational tomorrow morning. And if there's individualized issues, they're going to be addressed first thing in the morning.
Okay. And then all the classrooms that, just to confirm again, all the classrooms that didn't have air conditioning, because there were a few at Central, they do have portable units in them. And I believe in every other school, every other classroom was air conditioned, correct? We didn't have to do anything at the other schools?
Correct. There are, spaces that are not necessarily air conditioned, auditorium at the intermediate school. And then there's one like shop type classroom that doesn't have air conditioning, but all the other spaces are air conditioned.
Okay, thank you.
With regard to the high school gymnasium, the last report, air testing that was done in the gym with the air handler off so that we could test the circumstances if the ventilation system was not operational. That was performed, the report was provided and is available on the district website, and the results were within the standards as required by the New Jersey Department of Health. And then lastly, the Central Elementary valve fail flood claim. All work was complete as of Friday. The work was done very well. The place looks immaculate. And I have to give a shout out to the staff, both custodial staff at Central, as well as the other staff in the district that came over, the maintenance staff, and all the staff from Central Elementary School that came in over the weekend to set up their classrooms and help move things. But the project was completed and the school is ready to open.
And do we know how much that whole project cost?
No, not at this time. That'll have to go through the insurance company. So.
And is there going to be anything out of pocket on our end, or probably not? Or
it'll only be a deductible.
Okay. Any questions from anyone?
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. So at this time, we will go to, oh, actually, I don't have any old business for us. Any new business? Anybody have anything? No, seeing none. Now we'll go to public comment. Let's see.
I'm Chip.
Oh.
Just wondering, I listened to
Just-
that.
Ms. Cross, just your name for the record, please.
Betsy Cross. I live in Wall Township.
Thank you.
I know Mr. Hall went over that letter from Mr. Gartz. You mentioned he had an excused absence. I just think it was odd that he was in executive session and he's now not in this particular meeting. I was gonna play back Mr. Gartz, shouting and yelling, and we're never going back. We're never looking at information again. We're never looking at the trailers. We're never, ever, ever. And it's what a relief to hear that you're actually doing this. And it's a complete conflict of interest. Now we have Mr. McIver on tonight. It's a complete conflict of interest to ask Mr. McIver, the law firm, to go through the report. So absolutely not. Definitely somebody from their office should show up tomorrow, take every box out of the building to do with the Central School trailers. That's obvious, and I'm sure Mr. McKeever knows that. You've got to get the documents you have and put them in a safe spot. So anything Brian Smythe has, anything Dawn Choma has, anything Nick Moretto has, Mike Monahan, Jason Bering, get all those documents out of there. I have thousands and thousands of pages of documents, and I've been going over these reports, and I'm just glad that we're finally going to get this looked at. So, it already says that the Monmouth County Prosecutor's Office got the disc. I'm not sure what's on the disc because Mr. Smythe would not send me a copy of exactly what he sent to Mr. Cram. Mr. Cram's report was terrible. You all knew it on June 26th. Why you waited till September 15th to actually do something is concerning. So, I'm not sure where this all came about. I'm just glad it did, because it's a complete relief that now somebody with the right eyes is going to look at all these documents, because it's very clear what happened. I have just notes and notes of, there were so many things. I can't even understand Mr. Cram's report. There were just so many things that were false. So I don't know what documents Mr. Smythe gave, because he couldn't come up with some of these conclusions because they're just not right. And nothing should be destroyed. Nothing should have ever been destroyed. And the demo should never have been demoed until the report was issued. So the big rush, the problem from the purchase till the demo, it's the entire time. So, I've carefully documented everything since August 18th and have every document, and I have every document backed up as well. So, and any documents that Mr. Smythe has destroyed, I want the attorney to get a list of tomorrow. And any documents that he shredded, he should have a list of those as well. And I think we should get our money back from Mr. Cram. To think that we were paying $600 a day, he worked on this for 15 weeks, is outrageous. So please get the money back. And go to the Monmouth County Prosecutor's Office, the Attorney General, Comptroller's Office, Commission of Investigation. Those are 4 agencies that would do this for free. We don't need to be paying anybody, just like I said back in September. So, Mr. Adonisio, you have completely let everybody down in your handling of this, and so has Mr. Gartz, although now I'm thankful that it's finally being looked at. And who decided to send back to me that report from Dr. Cram was a draft? It was unlawful. It was not a draft. There was nothing on there that said it was a draft. I wrote back, I don't know how many times. I wrote to the board. I wrote to Dr. Handerhan. I wrote to Lester Richens. I wrote to everybody. You all just sat there and ignored everything. The report was never a draft. So I have just pages and pages and pages of problems. So thank God it is going to be looked at, finally.
Thank you, Ms. Cross. Your time is up.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Hi, this is Tracy Nitchie. I have children at Allenwood and one in the intermediate school. And I just wanted to call in regards to the current, kind of what Aaron Mengen was discussing, the current temporary situation as it was quoted for the two fifth grade classes at Allenwood, where they're looking to combine two classes into a co-teaching situation with 40+ students with no partition as we're understanding. And honestly, this is really not acceptable learning environment. And it's really unfair to the students and the teachers this year. We're already faced with the challenge of trying to learn in masks for all of our kids and on a very shortened schedule. And now you expect 40 kids in one class to not be disruptive and have a productive day. It doesn't seem like it's going to happen. We're in a situation where we're trying to social distance and limit the exposure among these kids, yet putting 40 kids in a classroom does not meet those expectations. You've now doubled our kids' risk and exposure with combining these two classes of students together. So what happens when somebody tests positive? Now 40 kids and teachers are going to be impacted. That's not fair. And I also imagine, I think Dr. Handerhan had said that it was slated for a teacher of two classes. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like it's not. It sounds like it's going to be one combined class of 40 students. So I imagine that there's a class size limit and requirements if this is a co-teaching environment. And I would assume that a class size of 40 students is not acceptable for that teacher-student ratio. And what I meant to say at the beginning was, I know that everybody has been working very, very hard. I even sent a note to Dr. Gleason to say thank you for all the work that everybody has done. And it really does make me sad that I have to call in and say something about this the night before school. It's disappointing that this has been talked about for obviously several weeks, and the parents of these fifth grade students are finding out pretty much 3 days before school, and that this is getting discussed 12 hours before school starts. I would love to hear what is actually going on in those fifth grade classes. Is there not an opportunity to put one class into the gym and keep one of the classes in the fifth grade thing into the normal fifth grade class? I know, and again, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I believe the third grade class was actually broken out into 4 classes, which would lower their class size. So even if you took the third grade classes, that would be 10 less students in the cafeteria. Some of the other classes in the school, I know you spoke to this, the actual fifth grade classes, I know they're small. So I would hope that that would have been looked at if you could shift at the third grade class sizes are actually smaller, around 16 students, that they couldn't be shifted into the fifth grade classes, and the fifth graders could have been shifted into a larger class size to accommodate the 20 to the 21 students that are in this class. It's really concerning. And like I said, it's just frustrating. I know if parents would have been told ahead of time, maybe there would have been people who would have chosen to teach their kids virtually because they don't want their kids in a 40 class size class. It's not okay for our students. The class sizes are already big. It's already hard to manage the students. You have added pressure of everything with this pandemic, and it's really not fair to our students. So I really, please, the Board of Ed, as you vote on this, please consider, if this was your kids, would you want them in a class size of 40 kids? There really has to be a better solution. They're saying that this is temporary, but it's going to be long-term. So there has to be another plan for our students. This can't go on. So let's try to help our kids get ahead rather than falling farther behind. So please find another solution.
Thank you.
Ralph?
Yes, Mr. Hall.
Could I'm just trying to look for some clarity here, because I remember a few meetings back talking to Dr. Hanrahan, because, just about the logistics of this. So could you walk us through, like, I guess I'm trying to wrap my head around, trying to visualize it. And to be fair, I'm not familiar with Allenwood School. That's the one school in town that I did not actually attend. So I'm not familiar with the cafeteria, of the setup of it, so I can't even visualize it in my head, to be honest. But it seemed to me it was kind of odd too. But again, I deferred to your, curriculum experience. That would be the fifth graders that you'd be putting into that space, because they're older kids, they're bigger, they kind of more, they're louder. So it seemed like that would be a class that would probably, I would be trying, if in my way of thinking, I would have tried to say, well, let's try to make sure we get those kids in an actual classroom, and maybe the kindergartens or the first graders could be in a space that big. A, they're physically smaller children, and B, you would just think that you could put your divider in, have your two separate classrooms going. And again, I apologize for not knowing. I probably should, how big the space is, to hear teachers talking over here are going to be heard by kids over here, and how that would work. So I don't know. That's why I'm asking. But I guess my point is, and then I know that to do that, you'd have to take the fifth graders out of the gym, out of the cafeteria, put them in a classroom, take the second graders out of there, put those into the cafeteria. And I'm expecting the answer is going to be, well, those rooms aren't big enough to handle the social distancing required from the children, from fifth grade children, as opposed to second grade children. I don't know, but that would be my guess. Could you just talk about that? Because I think that's the main, not main issue, but I think that's a big issue the parents are trying to understand, is like, why did you pick the fifth graders, and why on earth would you have a 40-person class being co-taught by two teachers that gets you the 20 per teacher ratio, so you're legal, as opposed to just saying, let's put a wall up, let's wall it off, you'll have two classrooms, and just do it that way. If you could just talk to us about what went into that.
Sure. I will tell you that Allenwood, the classrooms, there's not really a consistent size or footprint in Allenwood. The classrooms are very different. And the decision there are a lot of grade levels that were shifted around in all of the schools because it went to class size, it went to how many particular children in a grade level at a school. Also, that are starting the school year virtually. Those were decisions that's a factor that was made into the decision to see how many actual children we expect to walk through the door the first day of school. So there are many classrooms that historically perhaps was a second grade classroom for 50 years. It's fourth grade this year because class size and square feet took a priority that has never, certainly in my life and in my career, has never taken such center stage. The decision to move fifth graders into the gymnasium was a developmental one. It was a decision that was made by educators, and it's not an ideal situation for everyone. So it was, looking for, arguably, it would have been worse for kindergartners to be in a space like that. So, as I indicated earlier, I will certainly have more information for you next week. And again, I just want to reiterate that there were a lot of tough decisions that had to be made during this time, during a very short amount of time. We had to work with real numbers. We had to wait till we had a viable all virtual program so that we could ask families to make a binding decision to a certain date. And again, the priority was from the community was certainly a bias towards 5 days of instruction. When you follow a hybrid model at the intermediate, like we're doing at the intermediate school and the high school, there is a lot more square feet available because you're working with 50% of the population. So there were a lot of decisions made. I do know that Dr. O'Connell, and her staff, painstaking machinations that have, well, if I use this space here, if I use this space here, and the facility is, it's maxed out. Next week, I hope to have that information for you regarding the square feet of the individual rooms. Again, I would like to share that it's not a consistent 850 square foot classroom across the board. It's not like that at all. And fifth grade, historically, the fifth grade classrooms are small classrooms. It was looked at to move the fifth grade to another class, but what's happening is it's a pushing of the problem. So again, it's not ideal. I can certainly gather more information for you, and certainly some of the details regarding the decision. I'll say it again, it is not an ideal situation, but given the parameters, given what we needed, we're doing the best we can do with, by keeping the students at Allenwood 5 days a week. So with those parameters, we believe that we maximize the facility. So we can certainly provide data to that effect for next week.
Dr. Handerhan, I'm going to play, I guess, the devil. So, I mean, I'm very familiar with, all the work that's gone into all these plans, and I'm familiar with the spaces and pretty much all the schools. I mean, I've really taken the time over the last few years to really walk them and get a feel for them. If this space could not be utilized the way it is, and let's just say, okay, you know what, the board says we only want one fifth grade class in there. We're just not sold on the idea of two. What is the alternative? Would those students be able to stay in that building, or would they have to get transferred to another building?
It's my understanding they could not stay in that building.
Okay.
I say that it is my understanding because there's a lot of things have changed in the last week as far as enrollments. So I would have to relook at the numbers.
Right, and certainly that, that was a conversation we had about another building.
Yep.
With I think it was
At the time the availability was there. I would have to look back on current enrollment.
Okay, Erin, you're on mute.
Okay. I feel like that's not fair to say if we don't vote yes for this, then one of the classes then they would be put on virtual or somewhat a hybrid or something like that, because then, my belief of having a class size that large, I'm absolutely against. It's not the location, it's not being in a cafeteria, it's the size or the fact that there's going to be two separate classes going on, and it's going to be so distracting, or it's going to be 40 kids in one area, and that within itself is distracting. I mean, for children to be in a large group, because there's so many people to look at, and you want to talk to so many other people, then really do your work. And I'm having serious doubts about this. So for me, I'm thinking, okay, what happened? I know the other fifth grade has the library. What about the art room? What about the Spanish room? What about the computer room? What about all these extra spaces? Like, there's no extra. The only other section that was added, it was added into third grade. So I'm not seeing how all of a sudden we lost all these rooms, and now 2 grades, and it's fifth grade. These students have to be really prepared for intermediate, or they're going to be at such a disadvantage. And, it's losing instructional time at this point. So I really wish that this was communicated earlier to us. So there could have been better problem solving at this point, because now it's like, well, if this doesn't happen and go through, then they're going to be put on virtual or hybrid, and that's not fair, because now I'm looking at my own beliefs and as a teacher, and I sympathize with the teachers who have to educate within this space, because it is not easy to do with a mask. And I have kids in my class right now in the single digits, and it's still difficult. So 40 kids is just mind-boggling to me. So that's all I have to say. I'm just really extremely disappointed with everything. You know, I feel like I became a part of the board to be an advocate and to advocate for my students and to advocate for my kids alone. And now I can't even do that because information came out so late, you know, and this is directly affecting so many people. It's just not fair. It's not fair at all.
No.
Dr. Handerhan, is there any way to have Dr. O'Connell and her staff go back and revisit, you know, decisions that have been made? I mean, certainly, you know, these plans were put in place. So school's starting tomorrow, which is a good thing. And, you know, thank God. But maybe there is some juggling or shifting now that maybe the initial pressure of like, oh my God, we have to get ready for school. We got to get school open, that now tomorrow school will be open. And maybe now everybody can kind of take a deep breath and kind of take a different look at things and see if something can get shifted or work a little better.
Well, I will certainly be speaking to Dr. O'Connell to start garnering some of the details that were requested of me this evening. So
and
there will definitely certainly be a conversation.
Okay. And with that, maybe to Mr. Smythe, how difficult would it be to do some kind of temporary portable air conditioning for the gym at Allenwood School so we could gain more space? I know not an easy question. I'm sorry.
Quite the endeavor.
To your knowledge, is there anything that could be rented to make that into a usable space?
Yes. You know, there's, you know, money can do a lot of things. I would say it's not going to be inexpensive, both the rental, the installation, the electrical requirements, as well as the operation of it, but that is an option.
Could that be something maybe we could get some numbers on? Some rough numbers to get an idea? If, you know, if worst case scenario that this is, you know, the best case scenario for Allenwood School, knowing that, I mean, certainly 40, I mean, I agree with Aaron. I mean, 40 students and you know, the cafeteria is not necessarily the smallest cafeteria, but 40 fifth grade kids in a space who have been pretty much kind of locked up for the last 6 months. There's going to be a lot of energy from those students for a very long time. And certainly, again, with the masks and everybody talking and, you know, 2 classes going on, even if, even if they're doing it at the same time, I understand how it's going to be difficult, and I certainly understand the parents' concerns. So maybe if we could just have some other alternatives if we have to, and just, you know, take a look at them if need be. Mrs. Stites, you're on mute.
I don't want to belabor this point. My question would be, I understand that the gym is not air conditioned. Is there a certain temperature that, I mean, obviously it's not air conditioning, kids take gym in that, you know, in that space. So would that space be able to be used maybe as like a little breakout room area to kind of, I'm just making a suggestion. I mean, but obviously, you know, if the temperatures stay down where they are, it may not be on very high. I'm certainly not suggesting that we put kids in any kind of dangerous situation, but you know, hopefully if the temperatures stay as they are, I'm just suggesting while we come up with maybe something that's more palatable to everybody, maybe using the gym just even for breakout space might, you know, because I think they're right across the hall from each other.
They are.
Just a thought.
Mr. Sanfilippo.
Not only do Christine and I have the same initials, but apparently we share the same brain, because that was kind of what I was going to say. I was literally looking at the temperatures for September. I mean, it is unusually cool, right? And granted, nobody knows the weather, and you know, there's different things. But if you look at like the month of September, it's 70s, you know, et cetera, et cetera. So maybe you know, certainly that's something that, you know, can be taken into consideration, you know, going forward, you know, from here. Obviously, we would like for things to progress where we're back to normal status, but maybe, we can explore, looking at the gym and, certainly when it's cooler, the gym's heated, so that's not going to be an issue, come, late months, late November, December. Hopefully, listen, hopefully we have some things with the health and the stability of this country and everything else situated a little bit better later on, and the coronavirus somehow manages to go away or whatever. But I agree, that if we can somehow, you utilize that space in a better fashion, then that would be great.
I'm gonna go back to anybody else for public comment. Okay, seeing none, we'll close public comment. Did anybody else on the board have anything else? Dr. Handerhan?
Oh, I'm good. Just excited for tomorrow.
Yes, Mr. Smythe? I guess he's good.
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Well, with that, I'd like to wish all our staff good luck tomorrow, all our students. It feels like it's been a long road to get to this point, and certainly very excited about the start of the new school year. And, God willing, everything will go off without a hitch, and this will just be another step towards everything getting back to normal. So with that, could I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Chris. Could I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Stites. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, great. Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.
Good night.
Good night.